Well, ladies and gentlemen, the numbers are starting to come in from the domestic box office for the Marvels, and as expected, it is not looking good. It is actually pretty much a massacre. It's really bad what's going on for the Marvels right now, and Marvel as a whole, or Disney as a whole, is definitely realizing that wokeness just isn't really selling anymore. Nobody wants to see these girl boss Mary Sue movies, and it's so funny because obviously Rotten Tomatoes is a prime example of just what it takes to try to push a message and just how much they would go and how far they would go to try to convince everyone else that people love this movie. But even with the positive reviews going on right now for the fake audience score and the fake critic score, even though everything is being super positive on Rotten Tomatoes, apparently this movie is doing worse than some of the biggest flops ever in the year so far. It is actually, or just in general, it is really, really bad out there for the Marvels. So let's get into the article, guys, from Bounding Into Comics. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into the YouTube algorithm. It says the headline: The Marvels crashes to earth with a Thursday night box office of just $6.5 million, performs even worse than Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and the big one, The Flash. Now, The Flash was a massive, massive flop. The Flash flopped harder than even I thought it was going to. I thought for sure that that movie was going to do at least fairly decent. I didn't think it was going to make money, but I just didn't think it was going to lose that much money. It's insane how much The Flash actually lost. And the fact that the Marvels is doing worse than both of these movies just goes to show the kind of company that this film is in. So it says, in an outcome that all but the franchise's most staunch defenders / slop consumers could have predicted, the Marvels is shaping up to be but the latest in the studio's ongoing streak of financial misses, as the space-based sequel has been managed to pull in even less at the box office on its Thursday preview night that either Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania or their rival DC's absolutely disastrous The Flash. Per reports from both Deadline and Variety, the Brie Larson, Toyota Paris, and Iman Vellani-led team of film managed to snag just $6.5 million in ticket sales. Disney reports the number at a slightly higher total of $6.6 million in its preview night premiere. As such, the Marvels would officially enter the history books with the third lowest preview night performance of the entire MCU, in its first place finish only being undercut by the first Ant-Man, which was $6.4 million, whose success at the time was hampered by the hero's relative obscurity in the public consciousness, and The Incredible Hulk, which was $2 million, which premiered at a time when preview showings began at midnight on Friday nights rather than at the current standard of 3 p.m. on Thursday afternoon. So listen, there's a lot of story to tell when it comes to the Marvels and the reason why it is doing so bad. It is obvious that this movie is definitely not going to be a top tier movie to whoever's left watching the MCU. Obviously, there are some people who are just major fans of the MCU and they're never going to give it up. But to be honest, it is very clear that you can see that the vast majority of watchers who used to watch the MCU have now completely checked out. You know, we say this all the time. It is very obvious. And as each movie starts to come out, you start to see worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's because they're not putting any effort in these movies. They're not trying to tell you good stories. All they're trying to do is push their message. And listen, if they could get away with not releasing this movie, you know damn well they probably wouldn't have. But unfortunately, they have gone down the identity politics totem pole, and they cannot walk away from movies like this. This is the problem when you play with virtue signaling. This is the problem when you play with pandering to people. This is the problem when you play identity politics. When you do this, you do not have the option to walk away, especially when you are Disney, the company that is absolutely shilling for all of the nonsensical identity politics things that are happening in the world right now. There is no way this company can walk away from movies like this. This is why they cannot walk away from Snow White, and they just decided to delay it to 2025. They would love to walk away from some of these movies. When they get this bad, or when they have this level of bad press, they would probably love to just write it off and just say, you know what, we're done. Just like Warner Bros. Just write it off and we're done and take the tax credit. But no. They can't do that because they're going to get absolutely destroyed if they do not release these overly diverse films. So it says, additionally, the film will also take home the title of Marvel's worst performing preview night of 2023, being left in the dust by the $17.5 million Thursday night box offices enjoyed by both Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Yet perhaps most damning of Marvel's latest outing is the fact that its preview night box office failed to surpass even that of the aforementioned Flash. Now that, for me, That is way, way, way bigger, in my opinion. Way, way bigger, because ultimately that just goes to show where the interest for this movie is. If you cannot even beat The Flash, and The Flash had Ezra Miller, right? Everybody and their mother hated Ezra Miller. I would say that everybody hated Ezra probably almost as much, if not more, than Brie Larson, because Ezra Miller is actually a predator, whereas Brie Larson is just annoying as hell. So the fact that The Flash is actually doing better than this film goes to show either the level of disdain that people have for this film, or just the general lack of interest that people have for this film as well. It's got to be one of the two. It could be both at the end of the day, but still, it goes to show that that's what's happening. People just don't care, man. They do not care. The only people talking about this movie in any sort of light is YouTubers like myself who report on the pop culture news and all that stuff. We're the only ones talking about it. Otherwise, if you go to your job, if you go talk with your friends, you go hang out, very few people are talking about Miss Marvel or the Marvels or Captain Marvel. Very, very few people are talking about it. It really is quite sad considering where the MCU was just a few years ago, where everybody was talking about it when it had to do with Endgame. You couldn't go anywhere without someone asking, oh, did you see Endgame? You know what I mean? And now it's just completely different. So it says a more fair comparison point, as both films were released amidst falling interest in superhero films, tracked preview nights starting at 3 p.m. and were subject to massive scrutiny ahead of their premieres. The Flash, even with star Ezra Miller's numerous crimes, being well within the realm of public knowledge at the time, managed to nearly double the Marvel's preview night box office, ending the night with a total of $9.7 million. Furthermore, much to the chagrin of the Disney and Marvel marketing machines, the opening night disinterest cannot even remotely begin to be blamed on sexism. No matter how bad they may want to blame it on sexism, and we know they damn sure do, they can't. According to the polls conducted by audience measurement company ComScore following various screenings and obtained by Deadline, the Marvel's initial viewership was made up of 63% men, 45% of which were over the age of 25, and 24% women over the age of 25. And it is as a result of this underperformance, as noted by both trade outlets, that the Marvel's opening weekend projections have fallen yet again. Whereas metrics just 9 days prior, the film closing out of its opening weekend with roughly 45.50 million in ticket sales, the film is now tracking to end its first 4 days in theaters with just 40 million instead. Wow. This film, if it really truly only makes $40 million in its first 4 days, oh my god, that is going to be such a massive, colossal failure. You guys got to remember, the budget for this movie is insane because it got delayed so many times, and then it got so many reshoots on top of that too. This movie is going to lose an ungodly amount of money. And listen, like I said in my last video, they have so much cash flow coming in from Disney Plus. They don't care, man. The message is more important than anything else to them. And if they can push this message and lose $200 million to do it, guess what? They're going to do it. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.